This is Notes in the Margin, a podcast for people who are super excited about writing their non-fiction book, but perhaps, just perhaps, aren't quite doing it. If you always feel called to tile the bathroom or clean the toilet instead of writing your book, you are in the right place. Your host, Vicky Fraser, has been there, done that, and has literally written the book about it. Join Vicky and her husband Joe as they make notes in the margin about creativity, writing techniques, publishing, and general shenanigans, and get tips and tricks to help you write your book. Hello and welcome to Notes in the Margin. My name's Vicky Fraser, and this week I am dashing into your ears with a RePodcast, a reissuing of episode 282, The Inklings, all about writing and community. And there's a couple of reasons for me dropping a RePod this week. First being that I've had COVID, as you might have heard last week, and also it's our wedding anniversary today. Yay, happy anniversary to us. We've been away at the weekend and I've just not really got round to creating a podcast. However, I did think that The Inklings would be a really good episode to share again because it was all about writing and community and how writing doesn't have to be lonely and all the rest of it. And one of the things I'm super excited about at the moment is my microbook magic course, which we are 3/4 of the way through. It's going absolutely brilliantly. I'm so proud of all of the writers who have joined me and are creating microbooks, and I just thought it would be the perfect opportunity to share this podcast again. Also, because I'm running Microbook Magic again in January, kicking off on January the 10th, and I'd like to invite you to come and join us. If you sign up before December the 1st, you can join us for the same price as this year's cohort, which is £300 for the Microbook Magic or £600 for the upgrade, and all of the information is in the show notes. If you sign up after December, you can sign up anytime up to when we start on January the 10th, but I am putting the price up in December. So we would love to have you. And if you want to know more about writing in community, keep listening, and we'll see you on the other side. Yeah, this week I wanted to talk a bit about writing in community.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's like this. I think when people think about writing, what do you picture when you think of writing?
You imagine people in lonely garrets, like in misery on their own, eating thin soup and
torturing words out,
begging publishers to help them.
Yeah, and I think that is kind of, it might be a bit extreme, but I think that is a popular kind of image of this like lone writer shut away, hammering away at a typewriter or a keyboard or whatever.
I guess at the point where there's success, then you've got little woodland lodges and
yeah,
a lake to look at whilst you type away.
Trying to think of there is a writer whose name I'm terrible with names. I just forget them all the time. But there was a famous writer who you will mostly all know.
Stephen King?
No, way before him. But he used to go away for weeks at a time to his lakeside lodge, and it was just basically a shed by the lake, and he used to go and write. Anyway, but there is that kind of idea that is how writers do their thing. They bash away at a keyboard, they're tortured and suffering and alone and in self-inflicted solitude. And, that's one way to do it. And, sometimes writing is a solitary thing. Like, I do most of my writing on my own.
Mm-hmm.
But part of the reason that I started my master's degree was so that I can become a better writer. And it's not just from the stuff that I'm learning, it's because we have to post our stuff and then comment on each other's stuff.
Right.
And that's really it's really the only way to become a better writer. And like,
get feedback on your writing.
Yeah, and I will literally fight anyone who says, otherwise. It's like you can practice and you can do stuff and you can go and read widely and learn and have stories, and we'll talk about all that because that's all really important stuff to do. But ultimately, if you want to become a better writer, you need to put it out there and get people feeding back on it, because they will give you ideas for how to make it better. They will tell you what works, what doesn't work, and what
feels clumsy, what made them stumble.
Yeah, because there's this idea that we talk about the old cliche of like no man being an island, and it's really true. There is no such thing as rugged individualism. You cannot exist on your own as a human. We are not designed to do so. We will wither and die, and you can extrapolate that out into all sorts of other stuff as well, like engineering problems. And like one person didn't put us in space, and it's the same for like art that we create as well. It's like, okay, I might write the final book, a painter might paint the final picture, but to imagine that they were the only people involved, even peripherally, is ludicrous.
Sure.
Because we have to get input from elsewhere. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So so that is kind of what I wanted to talk about today. But I wanted to talk about the different ways that you can kind of write in community, so people can have a little bit of a think about it and get some ideas of how they might want to go about writing not alone.
Okay.
Yeah. And so there's like collaborations and stuff like that. So collaborations can be really good fun. And I kind of did that with my audiobook, That's What She Said.
So define me a collaboration.
So a collaboration might be, when you see like several authors
Okay.
named on a book, or an anthology, like a collection of people's different stuff put together. Like I'm also reading a book at the moment called Telling True Stories, and that is an anthology of essays by many different writers.
Okay.
But there's also like Good Omens is a really good example of a collaboration. Good Omens by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. They wrote that book together, both of them. So that's an example of a collaboration. You can do what I did with That's What She Said, which is I mostly wrote the book myself, but I went out and interviewed lots of different women in business and brought their stories into it, and then got them to read their parts as well. So for me, that's a collaboration, and that was really good fun. It was a really great experience. I would love to do a proper anthology one day as well, and kind of just gather people's stories together. That would be really cool. So that's one way to write in community. It's not for everybody. Like, I don't know if I could sit and write a book with somebody.
Yeah, how does that actually work?
I don't know. I've never done it.
I mean, do you take turns picking the word?
No, it's actually I should find a link to an article that I read a long time ago about, well, I think it was by Neil Gaiman and or Terry Pratchett, and they talked about how they wrote the book together. Okay. But everybody's processes will be different. I know some people...
one person might write the chapter and another person might critique and edit it.
Yeah, and they might have a chapter each. And I think that's what Write, Publish, Repeat guys did. So the three of them wrote that book, mostly two of them with another one as well. Johnny B. Truant, and then I can't remember the name of the other two guys, sorry. But that book, Write, Publish, Repeat, is really good. But they wrote that together, and they collaboratively write all of their fiction novels as well. Okay. And I think I remember them talking in the book about how they'll pick a part of the book each, and they'll kind of map it out together. Mm-hmm. And then they'll pick parts of the book each and kind of send it to each other and change it and write it in that way. So that's one way to do it as well.
So the shitty first draft is probably by somebody.
Yeah.
Everything else is edited and put together collaboratively.
Yeah, I think so. And, there are many ways to do it as well. So, and having never done it myself, I'm not going to sit here and say this is how it's done, because I don't know. But it's not just collaborations. It's not just actually writing the thing with other people. There's also just... getting a group of people, because when we write in groups, we do become better writers. Like I said, when we get outside feedback, we improve and we write better books. And a really good example of that is the Inklings. Have you heard of the Inklings?
Nope.
So the Inklings was C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien and a bunch of other prominent writers at the time. And they used to get together and drink beer, as far as I can tell. It all started with morning beer.
Okay.
And I'm going to put a link in the show notes to the article on the C.S. Lewis website that I was reading, where I learned about this. It's an article by Diane Glyer, and it's on C.S. Lewis's website, and the link is in the show notes. But it all started with morning beers, because C.S. Lewis used to write a lot of letters to people, and we've got a lot of them as kind of, sources. And he wrote in one of his letters, "It has also become the custom for Tolkien to drop in on me of a Monday morning for a glass of beer," he meant. "This is one of the pleasantest spots in the week. Sometimes we talk English school politics. Sometimes we criticise one another's poems. Other days we drift into theology or the state of the nation. Rarely we fly no higher than bawdy and puns." So they just used to get together and talk about stuff, which I think is something that has become lost in like the modern age of everything online and social media and endless like they didn't have films and stuff back then. They didn't have movies. They had books and they had conversation. And
now we have doing stuff, and entertainment.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons, by the way, why Sunday evenings are one of my favourite nights of the week. Because Sunday afternoons and evenings are when a bunch of our friends get together, or we'll pick somebody's house and we play Dungeons and Dragons. But we don't just play Dungeons and Dragons, we have a meal together and we talk about things, and it's kind of similar to that because we talk about everything.
Yeah.
Like we talk about all sorts of stuff. And it's just delightful. You know, there's no messing around on social media. There's no films, there's no outside. It's just like we'll play some mood music to adventure to, and then we will make up ridiculous stories and play a game. And it's just one of my favourite times of the week. So anyway, C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien and a bunch of other people did this as well. And that kind of morning beer, the idea of morning beer.
I like the idea of morning beer.
So that morning beer between Lewis and Tolkien kind of extended into this group of men whose, I haven't got all of their names written down here, but they talk about it in the article so you can have a look. But they would gather and make tea. I think this was an evening thing. So beer in the morning, tea in the evening. It's the opposite way around to what I would do it, but fine. And they would begin pulling out drafts of their work. And so as one person would read their work, the others would sit down to listen, encourage, critique, correct, to interrupt and argue and advise. They would continue this way, reading aloud, energetically critiquing until 2 or 3 in the morning. And so that is, and there are writers groups that do similar things now. You know, you can go and write with people in cafes and things. That sounds both terrifying and amazing. It sounds like an amazing thing, because if you've got a group of people, and it has to be a group of people you trust as well, because I have been part of groups where there is no way that I would read my stuff out loud because it's not a safe place to do so, you know, because not everybody knows how to critique. Not everybody knows how to give feedback. But then I've been in other groups where I would be super comfortable to do that, because you know it's going to come back with kindness.
Yeah, it's productive. It's not vicious.
Yeah, and I don't even think in some groups, I don't think people necessarily mean to be vicious about it, but you have to know what's useful feedback and what isn't useful feedback, and just being like, ugh, I hate that. It's really not helpful and also mean. So yeah, if you can find a group of people that you really trust to bounce ideas off and to read your stuff out to, then that is the most valuable thing in the world, I would say. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I've tried to create in my Weird and Wonderful Book Society, actually, is that safe space for people to read, like share their stuff with the group and then get thoughts back
useful
on it.
Feedback.
And it worked so well in the first round. It worked so well, and I was so delighted, because you never really know how it's going to work when you put a group of people together. And it just was amazing. And like, those books are better for that group, like interaction. So, but anyway, so that sounds awesome, and it's one of the reasons why I started doing my masters, because I wanted to be able to get that kind of feedback off people. And one day I would love to host a regular writers group like this, like that meets kind of once a week or something.
Drinking beer in the mornings.
I don't drink, but maybe something. Drinking tea. So yeah, there are many ways to write in community. You could join a writing group in person. Hopefully we'll still be able to keep doing that for the foreseeable. Maybe it meets in a bookshop or a coffee shop or a pub. Like, I don't know if you've heard of the Skeptics in the Pub group.
No.
So the Skeptics in the Pub is where people come together and talk about quackery and general bullshit, kind of yell at anti-vaxxers and that kind of thing. But they meet in the pub. It's called Skeptics in the Pub. But they talk about all sorts of things. Like, they will talk about stories like of alien abductions and like anything vaguely woo. They will come and discuss it. And it won't just be like, oh, this is bullshit. They will talk about it and kind of look at it from all angles. And it's a really interesting group. And so that kind of group for writers, I think, would be really, really cool. So yeah, you could do that. You could join a real group person, a real life group in person. You could join an online writers community. I have one of those. It's called Team Moxie. We meet every day for live writing sessions, and it's really cool, and it's very affordable. It's £50 a month. You could go on a writing retreat.
You could.
Which is one of the things that that was what I was going to do in 2020.
You've done a few of them, haven't you? You've done a few.
I've done Breaking Bread. That's not a writing retreat.
No, but I
went to Lanzarote. Yeah, we did one, and that was like a little trial for I wonder how this will work, and it worked brilliantly. And that was right at the end of 2019. And I was like, great,
Let's do more of this.
I'm going to do 2 of these in 2020. And then, of course, I didn't, because fucking COVID. So, but I was going to go away, we would go away for a week somewhere beautiful, preferably hot, just in a very small group, maybe 6 to 8 people max. And there would be group writing sessions, there would be teaching and creativity sessions, there would be free time to write alone or free time for fun and exploration. We would eat together. It would be amazing. Nobody would have to worry about food or drink or doing anything else. You're just there to write and get feedback and share your stuff and, make it better. And that didn't happen for obvious reasons. So instead, I started Team Moxie in July 2020 and the daily writing sessions and the power hours. And that's been amazing. It's been amazing for me. It's been amazing for the writers. And just the power of showing up to a room full of people and saying, I'm going to work on this thing, and then working on the thing, and then saying, I have done this thing, and everyone going, yay, and being able to ask questions is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
It's really cool. It's like magic. So that is the community that I have formed, which you would be most welcome to join. I would love to have you. Or you could create your own writing community, or even just find a writing buddy.
Just an accountability friend.
Yeah, someone to bounce ideas off and hold you accountable. That's really cool as well. Because in her article on the C.S. Lewis website, Diane Glyer said that the Inklings generated enormous creative energy. And that's what I was talking about earlier with that, no person is an island thing, is, we can create great stuff by ourselves and have ideas, but the best writing and ideas comes from other people and doing stuff and going outside of yourself. Because otherwise, where's it going to come from?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that the same in engineering?
Yes, the most creative and the best times are when you stand in front of a massive whiteboard and everybody gets a pen and you talk about the problem. You draw a picture, here's the thing, I can't get to this thing because that's in the way, and everyone goes, ooh, and then they all start drawing different things. And you get to a solution that might make sense, and then the design guy goes and designs it.
And I guess you get lots of stupid ideas along the way as well.
Oh, yeah, you get absolute nonsense.
Good, because the stupid ones lead to the good ones, right?
Yeah, quite often the best comment is made by somebody saying, "Why on earth are you trying to do it like this?
Yeah.
Why don't we do something completely different?"
Yeah, and that comment, that simple little why are you trying to do it like that, has been a game changer for me so many times in my life and business, because it's just like, oh, I don't know.
This is the way I first thought of, and now I'm, digging away down this hole trying to get to the bottom.
Yeah.
And it's like, we don't have to do that.
And that is the power of people, a group of people is, and you don't have to do it like that all the time. There is a lot of value to be had in writing on your own and of getting your thoughts straight and all the rest of it. But at some point, I really believe that you need to get it out there and put it in front of other people and be like, when you're stuck is a really obvious, I don't know how to solve this problem. I don't know how to take this point further. I don't know how to,
Yeah.
But also just for okay, I finished my first draft and now I want to make it better. And, putting it in front of people and getting them to pick it apart and look at it from all angles is really, really valuable, which, by the way, is something that I do in my coaching. That's why you get a writing coach to come and help you do this stuff, because you're way too close to it when you've written your thing. When I've written a book or an article, I will either think it's a bag of shit or I will think, oh, yeah, this is great. And I can't, it's really difficult to see outside of those two things.
See the nuance. See the detail.
So I really need somebody to look at it and say, and say, this needs to come out. And sometimes that's really painful because it's a piece of writing that I really like.
Yeah, I spent a week writing that.
Yeah. It's like, I don't want to get rid of it. It's like, yeah, but it doesn't fit here. And it's also not very good. Because sometimes the stuff we love is not very good. So yes, I'm really a massive fan of finding a group of people that you can write with or around or whatever. I think it's the number one. It's like, when you're learning a language and they say the fastest way to learn a language is to go and live in the country and put yourself there and force yourself.
It's the same deal. You're writing a book, writing whatever it is you're writing on your own.
Yeah. It's the
immerse yourself in people who are writing as well.
It's the fastest way to get better. You could spend 20 years writing on your own and gradually getting better, or you can be brave enough to shove your stuff in front of a group of people and say, help me make this better, and then learn from it. And it's just so much quicker. So, yeah. Anyway, So yeah, you could make your own writing group, you could join one, or you could join a short-term writing group specifically to get your book written, like my Weird and Wonderful Book Society. So thank you so much for listening to this podcast. We will be back next week with a brand new episode, I promise. Hopefully I will be up to full steam ahead again and we will have a little bit less on. But I just wanted to, again, reiterate that you could join a short-term writing group specifically to get your book written or your micro book written. And in this case, on January the 10th, you could start 2023 as you mean to go on with a writing habit, creating a micro book, getting your book done and dusted and maybe even out there in 4 weeks, because micro books are amazing. Books don't have to be huge. It can be a micro book. So come and join us. It's a 4-week nonfiction book writing program, micro book writing program that combines teaching, mentoring and coaching from me, group accountability, co-writing sessions, live group calls and feedback on ideas and your writing. I'm really excited about it. The first cohort is going so well. So come and join us. All of the information is in the show notes, or you can email me, Vicky at moxiebooks.co.uk and ask me anything. Next week, Joe and I will be back talking about something, writing or creativity. And as always, thank you so much to Podfly for making this sound wonderful. And thank you to Harriet for pulling everything together and keeping me on track. And thank you to you, dear listener, for listening to this podcast. We'll be back same time next week. If you've enjoyed it, please go and rate us and review us 5 stars, and share it with your friends. If you know somebody who will enjoy this podcast, send them a link. Thanks so much. Bye. Thanks so much for listening. Check out the show notes at moxiebooks.co.uk/podcast for links to everything we've mentioned in this episode. Remember to subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. And if you'd like to hear more from Notes in the Margin, you can sign up to get regular emails from Vicky into your inbox at moxiebooks.co.uk/notes in the margin. We'll be back same time next week.